Hey everyone, welcome to Meta Market Weekly. I'm Justin along with Fernando, and we're excited to be here as usual in this world that is not normal and in my opinion is never going back to normal again. We've got lots to talk about today. Of course, we're going to start out with our typical market analysis and then go into some overall financial news, crypto news, etc. So, hey Fernando, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, Justin, I'm doing great. I think it's too harsh what you're saying that the world is never going to go back to normal. Maybe, maybe it won't, but maybe the new normal eventually, will be a cool normal. I mean, I know right now it's crazy, and it feels like we're never gonna go back to the sweet life we had before. And yeah, maybe we won't, but maybe the future is not so bad. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
we'll see. I will see.
yeah. That wasn't it wasn't a negative. It wasn't a negative statement. I don't know. I think that you could actually argue that the normal that we had was not so great, anyways. So, and I think that we can create a new normal that, like you said, is a cool normal and way better than
Yeah.
what we had. And to be honest, would I go back to the way things were maybe 10 years ago? I don't really know if I would. I think that change is really important and good.
Yeah.
I think that, obviously we're in the midst of a war right now, and it's not so fun sometimes. But I also think that our sacrifice is going to be very much rewarded, and that we're going to come out on the other side stronger and better for it, and that the world is going to be a better place if we decide to stand up, just like you were saying before we came on air. So
Yeah. No, I agree. And like I always tell you, it's always darkest before dawn. So,
yeah, man, I totally agree with you, absolutely. And yeah, for sure. So what are your thoughts on the market? Pretty much sideways since the last time we talked, a little kind of up and down, but not too much. What's going on in your mind right now when the market has to do with the market?
let me go ahead and pull out my trading view profile.
Yeah.
So just a second. There we go. So yeah, last week, I don't know if you remember that I was saying that it was very possible that we're gonna hit this resistance at the parallel channel. I think we
Yep.
were trading about this level. So we hit here the resistance that I was expecting. And personally, I was expecting, something kind of like this to happen after this. But after taking a quick look again at the RSI, once we touched this level, it seems we didn't go as far below as I was expecting.
Mm.
We reached 38%, which is still not oversold. So now, after seeing this, I think we're gonna see something like what I trace here on the chart. Probably will continue to go down, maybe somewhere around this level. Actually, I wanted to trace in a trend line, and yeah, maybe it is very possible that we do something like this. I mean, this setup is playing out perfectly, and I think I'm very positive that it will happen. Something like this. Most likely will touch around maybe 25K.
Hmm.
And after that, I would expect a big bounce, very similar to what we saw here in January, or what we saw here in March. So, I mean, to be honest, the market's looking good right now. Things are looking good for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin. Regardless, we got to understand that the market follows certain rules, and one of them is the RSI levels. Almost always, I think this has like a 95% accuracy rate. If we take a look at the past, always when we hit oversold levels, then we're followed by I mean, I don't want to say massive trend to the other side, a bullish trend, but there's opportunity to make money. The trend is reversed, and then we have a couple of weeks where the market bounces, upside, And yeah, I mean, we saw this on May of 2022. We saw it in June of 2022. We saw it in August, November. We saw it early 2023. We saw it on March of 2023. We had a major drawback from the RSI. We hit oversold levels. So this is actually if whoever's listening, and if you're a rookie and you don't really know when's a good time or a bad time to buy, just use the RSI indicator. If you had a trading view account, just open it, go here, indicators, and select relative strength index. And this is a great indicator for you to know when's a good time to buy. I don't recommend people to just buy whenever you have money, because that's not a strategy. That's just going blindly into the market.
Yeah.
If you want to, if you already have Bitcoin and I don't know, you have like $5,000 or $10,000 and you want to buy more, this is a great indicator. Just whenever you see the RSI around these levels, that's a good time for you to throw money in. And I mean, it's almost a perfect strategy. You're not gonna, I find it nearly impossible for it to fail, because pretty much what this is indicating is that an asset is oversold. So when an asset is oversold, that means that you got to buy it, because since it's oversold, people are selling it for a price that's not, it's considered below its true value. So right now, like I was saying, we're at 40%. I am expecting it to draw down a little bit further. I want to say like maybe 32%. And if you do see the market at 32%, that would be a great indicator for you to buy some Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency or asset you wish to buy. And yeah, with that said, it's not just looking good for Bitcoin. I wanted to touch the S&P 500 real quick. So as you can see here today, we actually broke a resistance level that we had here, and we reached a higher low. And what this is indicating is looking positive for the market. However, I think right now the market is waiting for some news from the government to see if they're gonna default under debt or not. So I feel like until we don't have those news clear, the market is going to continue under these levels. However, I think we're not gonna default on the debt, because if we default on the debt, it's gonna be chaos for America and all the countries that are dependent on America, on the United States, and it's gonna be very bad short term. So what I think what's gonna happen is that the government is gonna print more money. I mean, it's almost inevitable. And in the long term, this is bad because it causes more inflation that we don't need. But unfortunately, there's really no other option right now. I think that I don't know for sure, but I think that what we're gonna see is that the government is gonna print more money, which will be good for the market. It's gonna make the market to continue to go up, not just Bitcoin, but the S&P 500. And like I said, in the near future, it's gonna be good because it means that the market's still gonna keep going. People are gonna be able to purchase more stocks, cryptocurrencies, but at the long term, it's gonna create more inflation. And pretty much what they're doing, they're just kicking the can. They're just buying time while they figure out how they're gonna fix this mess. But eventually, there's gonna come the time where we gotta pay the debt and fix the situation. And when this happens, everything's just gonna crash bad. If you think right now the crash is bad, if there's no solution, if by any chance the government is smart enough to figure out a way to fix this problem, then we're not gonna see the catastrophe that I have in mind. But if there's really no way to fix this, and they eventually default under debt and they stop printing money, the market is going to collapse. and I don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot going on, which brings me to the first news that I wanted to share with you guys. That so several countries right now are ditching the US dollar. So the right now the first two countries to ditch the US dollar are Iraq and Venezuela. And I know what you're thinking, whatever, they're really not major players, they're not big countries. But at the end of the day, this is something to be concerned of, because if they are leaving the US dollar, that means that they have another option. And I mean, I don't know exactly what they're gonna do because I don't follow the situation too closely. But from what I'm reading from this article, it seems like these countries might join BRICS, which is the new alliance between China, Russia, Brazil, and they're creating a new currency. So if these countries are ditching the US dollar, there's probably a reason behind it. Either they're jumping in crypto or they're jumping into the BRICS currency. And I feel like it's more likely that they're jumping into the BRICS currency, which, it's gonna remove power from the US dollar. It's gonna make it worth less. And it's just bad for the US dollar overall. Even though Iraq and Venezuela are not huge countries, it is bad for the reputation of the US dollar. And it is very possible that other countries will follow eventually, because they might be sick of what's going on, inflation and rules not being clear for things, and it's just crazy. I don't know what if you have any thoughts regarding the matter.
I 100% agree with you, and I think we're going to see more and more countries join BRICS and start trading in other currencies, potentially a currency that is a BRICS created. But I definitely think we're going to see it happen, because unfortunately the writing is on the wall. In my opinion, this entire thing is manufactured and is it's an intentional weaponized ideology and agenda from the United States and its allies to destroy the US dollar. I think that that's really what's going on here. And I think what's happening in the rest of the world is like, we don't want to deal with this mess over here. Like, you guys stay over here and do your clown show. We're going to come over here and we're going to actually do business, and we're actually going to make work on making our countries thrive and prosper. And I'm not saying that Russia and China and Iran and Brazil are all great. They're not, but
No.
They're doing better than the US, in my opinion. And I just think that it's really going to be interesting times ahead to see what happens with a lot of these countries where, like you said, they're either joining BRICS or they're doing something like the UAE and Dubai are doing, where they're just opening up their arms to crypto and to blockchain, just saying, let's go, let's really push through innovation and really support this technology to prosper in the future. And these are smart decisions. They're very smart decisions, because these people are seeing, wow, if we can work together in peace and harmony, if we can figure out a way to all coexist. This is the same thing, the same concept from our project's view of things. We don't want to destroy the centralized system or to whatever. If there are people who want to be a part of that centralized system, that's perfectly fine. But what's not okay is not allowing people to have an option of what they want to do. Do you want to be a part of a centralized financial system that tricks you, that steals from you, that enslaves you? Or do you want to be a part of a system that is decentralized and that is about abundance and about prosperity and creating peace and all of those things? Because at the end of the day, what does more trade do? What does less taxes do? What does all of these things do? It creates really beautiful, incredible, thriving economies. And that's what everybody wants, because when the economy is doing really well, everybody is doing better. Everybody has more money in their pocket to take their kids on vacation and buy their wives presents and surprise their family with this, and to provide a better lifestyle for their family. And that's what everybody wants. So, in my opinion, I just think that this is going to be the continual trend over the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years. We're just going to start to see the dollar just collapse more and more, because the less countries that are relying on the dollar, the more the bigger problem. I mean, and we're starting to see, and you're mentioning two small countries here, but we've already started to see really big players in the world turn their back from the US dollar. Saudi Arabia has now started taking something other than the US dollar for oil. Now that's a big move. Now they haven't stopped taking the oil altogether, but there's whispers of Saudi Arabia joining BRICS. And if that happens, then we may see them stop taking the US dollar altogether. And that will be a massive blow, because what is the US dollar called when it's not called the US dollar? It's called a petrodollar, because all oil is traded in US dollars, not anymore. So I totally agree with you for sure.
It's complicated, definitely. The point that I'm trying to get across is that right now there's something happening, at the back. I mean, we don't really, the people don't really know what's going on, because they don't say this on the news. They don't share this kind of information. So you just gotta connect all the dots to understand what's going on. And there's definitely a major shift happening. There's like you said, if other countries are no longer going to accept the petrodollar, that means that they're going to accept something else. And what else are they going to accept? I don't know. It could be the BRICS currency, it could be Bitcoin, it could be something else. But you got to be prepared, because at one point, the bank can just say, hey, your money is worth nothing anymore. And since the money is not backed by any hard assets, not backed by gold or by anything, you get just caught holding the bag, as the kids would say, right? So it's crazy. It's crazy what's going to happen. But which brings me to the next news that I wanted to share with you guys is on the other side of, countries no longer accepting the US dollar. Pakistan, I don't know. I think my screen froze. Can you see my screen?
It just loaded.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So Pakistan says that they are going to ban crypto and never going to legalize it. So, I mean, the only reason for me that comes to mind why a country would say something like that, that they're afraid of Bitcoin and blockchain, is because they're corrupt. There's no other reason. And I'm not saying this to be biased. I'm not saying this because I hold Bitcoin. I'm saying this because blockchain is a technology that eradicates corruption. And, if you make a quick Google search on Pakistan, there's even an article on Wikipedia stating that, Pakistan is a massive corruption country. So, I mean, I don't mean to offend anyone. I know that there must be a lot of people from Pakistan that have good values and are not corrupt. So there's really no other reason on why to ban blockchain other than being corrupt. And it's the same reason why many states in the US and in Mexico and all over in India, they want to ban blockchain, because at the end of the day, blockchain is the only thing that can save the human race from corruption and from this tyranny that's a hold of society. And I want to show you guys this video that pretty much, I don't think I've heard a better explanation of what blockchain is than the video that I'm going to share with you guys. It's a little bit long, but it's incredible. What they're saying just hits the spot. And I just hope that a lot of people can watch this video so they understand what blockchain is actually doing. So I'm gonna press play and just let me know if you can hear it, okay?
Yeah.
Members of the committee.
Yes.
You can hear it, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Peter Van Valkenburg, and I'm the Director of Research at Coin Center, an independent nonprofit focused on the public policy issues affecting cryptocurrency and public blockchain networks. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the world's first cryptocurrency, and it works because of the world's first public blockchain network. What does Bitcoin do? It's simple. It lets you send and receive value to and from anyone in the world using nothing more than a computer and an internet connection. Now, why is it revolutionary? Because unlike every other tool for sending money over the internet, it works without the need to trust a middleman. The lack of any corporation in between means that Bitcoin is the world's first public digital payments infrastructure. And by public, I simply mean available to all and not owned by any single entity. Now, we have public infrastructure for information, for websites, for email. It's called the internet. But the only public payments infrastructure that we have is cash, as in paper money. And it only works in face-to-face transactions. Before Bitcoin, if you wanted to pay someone remotely over the phone or the internet, then you could not use public infrastructure. You would rely on a private bank to open their books and add a ledger entry that debits you and credits the person you're paying. And if you both don't use the same bank, well, then there'll be multiple banks and multiple ledger entries in between. With Bitcoin, the ledger is the public blockchain, and anyone can add an entry to that ledger, transferring their Bitcoins to someone else. And anyone, regardless of their nationality, race, religion, gender, sex, or creditworthiness, can for absolutely no cost create a Bitcoin address in order to receive payments digitally. Bitcoin is the world's first globally accessible public money. Is it perfect? No. Neither was email when it was invented in 1972. Bitcoin's not the best money on every margin. It's not yet accepted everywhere. It's not used often to quote prices, and it's not always a stable store of value. But it is working, and the mere fact that it works without trusted intermediaries is amazing. It's a computer science breakthrough, and it will be as significant for freedom, prosperity, and human flourishing as the birth of the internet. And Bitcoin is just the beginning. If we can replace private payments infrastructure, then we can replace other private choke points to human interaction as well. Now, why should we want to build more public infrastructure? Why should we embrace blockchains over corporate intermediaries? Why should we tolerate their inefficiencies and work to make them better? Why should we want the pioneers of this technology here in the United States and not fleeing overseas? A simple reason. Because the corporate intermediaries providing today's critical but privately owned infrastructure are becoming fewer, larger, and more powerful, and their failures are increasingly grave. So roughly half of all Americans, 143 million people, had their Social Security numbers exposed to hackers because of a breach at Equifax. The SWIFT network has relayed hundreds of millions of dollars in fraudulent transactions because of hacked member banks in Bangladesh, Vietnam, Ecuador, and Russia. The FBI suspects now that the largest of these hacks was perpetrated by North Korea. Corrupt, low-level employees at an Indian bank, Punjab National, were able to fraudulently certify SWIFT messages stealing $1.8 billion. It's the largest electronic bank robbery in history. In fact, it's the largest bank robbery in history. In October 2016, an estimated 1.2 million internet-connected devices were hacked and turned into a botnet that for several hours made prominent websites unavailable across Europe and North America, including CNN and Fox News, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. Increasingly, physical machines are being connected to the internet to augment their capabilities. They're wired through servers that are owned and maintained by private and trusted intermediaries, the so-called Internet of Things. Pacemakers from St. Jude's Hospital have been hacked. Baby monitors from TrendNet have been hacked. And Jeeps from Jeep have been hacked to the point where they can be remotely commandeered and driven off the road. Now, those vulnerabilities are inescapable in systems that have single points of failure. It doesn't matter if the point of failure is a corporation or if it's a government. There shouldn't be a single point of failure. Similar choke points existed before the internet. If you wanted to deliver a message, you'd have to go through one of 3 television broadcasters or a handful of newspapers. Private corporations are essential, but no critical infrastructure should rely on 1 or 2. The internet removed single points of failure in communications infrastructure and ushered in a wave of competition among new media corporations building on top of its public rails. Blockchains can similarly disintermediate critical payments and IoT infrastructure. The technology is not yet ready to answer all of those questions today, but it is our best hope. And as with the internet in the 1990s, we need a light touch, pro-innovation policy to ensure that these innovations flourish in America for the benefit and security of all Americans.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah, that guy's my friend for sure.
Yeah.
That is the beginning of that. I want everyone to go back and listen to this recording again, because the beginning of that entire speech is exactly why the governments of the world, especially the United States government, does not want blockchain to exist, because it is a money. Crypto is a money that is not printed and not owned by the US government or by any government. That's the thing. Because when you get into that from a legal perspective, when you get into that, when you start looking at that, you start looking at things, questions about the legality of even taxing cryptocurrency, because it's not a currency that is actually printed and issued by a centralized federal government. And you also go into basically this idea that someone can use money without the intermediary of banks or the governments involved. And that's exactly the reason why they're pushing so hard against it.
I agree. And, long story short, the reason why blockchain technology is so amazing is because it does not have a single point of failure.
Yes.
What does this mean? It is not centralized. In a centralized system, you have one point of authority, and this point of authority, it looks at all the information, and, the information is not public, and it can be changed by the people, at the point of authority, right? So pretty much the fat kid, at the end of the rope, has the cake, and he decides what happens to the cake, and it's the fat kid, you cannot trust the cake to him, because he's gonna eat it.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's what being centralized is. You're trusting someone that you don't know that he's gonna make the right decisions. And with a decentralized system, pretty much what you're doing is like, hey, there is not just one person looking. Everyone is looking, and if you do something wrong, everyone's gonna know. And if everyone knows, you're screwed. You're gonna go to jail. Your life is gonna be over. So don't do it. So now, since everyone can see that you're doing something, illegal, something that's not, what you're supposed to do, there's a risk. There's a risk of eating the cake. If you eat the cake, everyone, all the computers in the world, all the nodes are gonna know that you ate the cake, and it's not gonna be good for you. So that's why blockchain needs to be, maybe not forced, but we gotta make all the governments, all the voting, mechanisms to use blockchain, money on blockchain, public records on blockchain, everything on blockchain, because it's gonna eradicate corruption. And
it's simply about allowing for another system to flourish. I think that is it. And this is what this comes down to, is that the majority of the governments in the world, led by the United States, does not want to take their hands off of control because of the two things that you just talked about, Fernando. First of all, corruption. We see it with the president of the United States right now. with the amount of money and the amount of fraud and just criminality that him and his family are currently being accused of. And second of all, and that's just the beginning of the iceberg. I mean, let's think about all of the money that's been funneled to the Ukraine because those ledgers are private at the banks in Ukraine. We don't know where that money is actually ending up. And second of all, there's also this control factor, because when they take their hands off of the control factor and allow cryptocurrency and blockchain to flourish, then they don't have as much control. But as I just said, it's about just allowing another system to flourish and for the people to be able to make a choice. Do you want to be a part of this corrupt and very, very dark centralized system, which we all are very aware of, and we don't have to beat the bush a million times about it? Or do you want to be a part of a system that is literally uncorruptible and provides endless amount of opportunity in terms of economy, etc., etc.? I mean, there are so many things that blockchain technology can do outside of just being a store of value that it is mind-blowing. And we haven't even started to tip the very tip top of the iceberg in terms of what this technology can do for society and for humanity as a whole. So yeah, man, I mean, what an incredible video. I applaud that guy for his very succinct and simple breakdown of why blockchain technology is amazing.
I agree. It's incredible, and I agree with everything you just said, and especially what you were saying that, how do we know what they're doing with that Ukraine money? Because at the end of the day, that's taxpayers' money. Why don't they use that money to help the homeless, to build roads, to build schools, to cure cancer? Why are they using it, to fight a war that's not even ours? That's between Russia and Ukraine, and why? It makes no sense. And what makes even less sense is that we're using a ledger that is not public and immutable. So I mean, it's just crazy. But I know eventually things will get better. I know eventually we'll get blockchain for voting, for money, for everything. But until then, I think you also wanted to share a very important news that I also read the other day about Ledger, right? That they're doing some shady stuff with their hardware wallets.
They are doing some shady stuff, and there's some really pissed off people on Reddit. It's really great to see. But yes, I will share my screen, and can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
So I'm not going to read this whole article, but basically I'll read a quote from it. So Ledger, a Paris-based hardware wallet maker, announced a new key recovery feature this week. It is thought that the move would be popular, allowing users to recover their private keys, much like you can recover your password if you forget it. Would help onboard customers, the company believes. Potential crypto users are known to be turned off by crypto's unforgiving self-custody ethos, not your keys, not your coin. But a recovery service would offer more comfort. Basically, when they released this, they were criticized by a lot of their customer base, and I don't blame them, because for everyone who doesn't know who Ledger is probably the most popular hardware wallet out there. What is a hardware wallet if you don't know what that is? A hardware wallet is basically a wallet that is an actual hardware device, and the private keys, etc., are only stored on the hardware wallet itself. And when you disconnect that hardware wallet from the computer, then it is what we call air gapped, which means that there's no possible way to hack this hardware wallet. It is probably the most secure way to hold any kind of digital currency, and they are amazing. And Ledger is probably, I mean, you would say probably the most popular crypto hardware wallet in the world, right, Fernando? I mean,
yeah, I agree. The only thing that I think it's different, I think that your passkey, the string of words that is like your backup to save your hardware wallet. I think it's not stored on the hardware wallet. I think you only they give it to you, and once they give it to you, it's gone forever. But now I think the problem that they're encountering is that they're saying that it's actually not gone forever, that it's actually stored in your hardware wallet, and they can retrieve it for you. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so there you're talking about the seed phrase,
The
which
seed
is
phrase,
what,
yes.
yeah, which is basically the backup, everyone. That's
Yes.
what it is. It's like your paper wallet if you're a Meta One member. So yes, and basically what they're saying is that your seed phrase is actually stored somewhere on a basically on the hardware wallet, in which they can actually access that wallet and recover it for you remotely, which is a big no when it comes to a hardware wallet. Really, even there's people out there saying that Ledger is not a hardware wallet anymore, it's a hot wallet. And they have a point. And this just goes to show the other thing too is that Ledger's actual software is called closed source software. So for everybody who doesn't know, who's brand new to this game, there are two types of software out there. There's software called closed source. This is anything from let's say Apple or Microsoft or Google. So basically that means that under NDA, the groups and teams of programmers build and design the software, and nobody actually can look at the code outside of these groups of programmers under NDA that work for these companies, and actually see that code and look to see, are there any backdoors, or is there any malicious stuff in it? Are there any connections to, let's say, government agencies through API or something like that? You can't see that information. With what we call open source, which is actually what the technology, most blockchain technology is built off of, including Meta One's blockchain, you can go on into their what is called code repositories, and you can look at the code itself and see if it checks out or not. Of course, the majority of people listening to this are probably not programmers, but if you were really interested and serious, you could actually pay someone on like Fiverr, who's a developer, probably a couple $100 to be able to look at this code for whatever you're looking to use and tell you, is it good, is it not? The cool thing about this too is that a lot of third-party or independent developers that are in the community do this already, and they actually post their feedback publicly. And this is kind of how open source projects are publicly accepted, because if a coder who knows what he's doing actually looks at this code and finds backdoors, etc., typically what they'll do is they'll present to the company, to the project, and if the project doesn't fix those backdoors, obviously there's something going on. And it's sort of like blockchain but for code, right? So basically this is not a great thing for Ledger. I personally don't think that I think they're going to lose a lot of market share because of this, because people buy Ledgers because they're hardware wallets. So it's unfortunate, I mean, we're seeing more and more of this stuff where there are players in the space who are saying that they are a proponent of open source and a proponent of self-custody, etc. But then they're saying now that the basis of their software is not actually that way. And I get it from a perspective of a business perspective, where they want to onboard more people. They're trying to get more crypto adoption because there is that headache. If you are somebody who has a problem keeping things in place and not losing things, having a wallet that's self-custodial can be really hard for you. I know people who have lost, a significant amount of money because they didn't save their private keys in a bright place. But in my opinion, it's the way to go. It's the only way to go. And you just have to be responsible. If you can use a password manager and you can, store use a couple of really simple methods to be able to store your private keys, you'll never have that problem. So yeah, man, I don't know. I personally have a ledger. I'm actually rethinking if I want to continue to have a ledger because of this. But I think it's unfortunate, and we'll see what they do. But those are my thoughts on it. What do you think?
I agree. What I was reading, and I was one of those guys on Reddit as well. So what I was reading from what they were saying is that as long as you don't update the firmware, this update is not gonna happen. Where I think they're calling it encrypted sharding. So
Yep.
you have this document, and the document they divided on 3 shards.
Yep.
So the seed phrase technically is not really there. It's like in 3 different computers, and the only way you can get the full document is by bringing the 3 shards together. I don't really understand how it works. I'm not a coder, but from what I understood, that this update where your ledger is gonna store your seed phrase will only happen if you update your firmware. So as long as you don't update it, you should be fine. I definitely am gonna be leaving Ledger eventually, and especially because I'm sure you heard that a couple of months ago they had a massive leak of information.
I did not hear that, but that doesn't surprise me.
It happened. I personally cannot, on my personal email that is attached to my Ledger, I get every day scammy phishing about crypto, Bitcoin and stuff. And I know it's because of Ledger, because they had my information. Before that leak happened, I never got these kind of emails. So now imagine if these guys who couldn't even hold my email private, now they're gonna hold my seed phrase. So no, I think this is going to be another like a Budweiser crisis event, Black Swan event, where the company's stock is just gonna fall down, and I don't know what's gonna happen eventually. I don't know if they're gonna close or they're gonna crash or whatever. But everyone's angry at this, and I don't like it. I personally don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either, man. I don't like it either. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know about the breach, but it doesn't surprise me. This is the thing with centralized systems. When you have when you have information stored in a centralized manner, there's there's no way, it's impossible to basically protect it from every single possible attempting and hack. I mean, it's not. So I agree. I mean, it's just like that guy talking about in that video how 143 million people's social security numbers in the United States were exposed in the Equifax breach, and that stuff happens all day long, every day. On top of the fact that a company who says that they're standing for self-custodialism, and that's basically what their entire brand is built off of, is now like, oh, we're going to keep your seed phrase. I'm not a fan of it either. So I know that you had something else that you wanted to talk about, which was that article about Texas and their continued push, a sort of pro crypto push, with their ban against CBDCs, right?
Yeah, well, I accidentally closed the tab, but just I'll run it by.
I can open it since I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, as well. So pretty much just what I wanted to share is, there you go. Yeah, so I mean, we hear a lot in the news about the CBDC and Fed now, that it's coming and it's coming, and a lot of people are freaking out. I'm one of those people, but at the same time, there's the resistance. Florida, like 2 weeks ago, just announced that we're gonna ban the CBDC. It's not gonna be possible to have CBDCs in Florida, and now Texas is coming out and doing it. So
Yep.
definitely, it makes my heart, shine with light and smile to know that there's actually a resistance. That
Yeah.
not everyone is bad, not everyone in the government is bad. That there's people fighting for freedom and our liberty, and little by little, we're gonna start and see these people stand out and fight for our freedoms. And Texas is one of those countries, states. I'm super happy because I grew up in Texas. I went to college in Texas. I love Texas. I'm no longer in Texas right now, but it just makes me proud of being kind of from Texas. I'm not entirely from Texas, but I spent a lot of my life in Texas, and I'm just proud of my state.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So now that's Florida, North Carolina, Texas will be hopefully next here. At least we've got a bill going, and hopefully that'll be approved. And then I know North Dakota is also doing the same thing. They have a bill in their house. So 4 states, potentially 2 confirmed, but 2 more that are potential here that could be banning CBDCs. That's amazing. We got to keep it going. There has to be more state legislatures that are standing up and saying no to this shit. And I'm really excited to see this. So yeah, totally. Well, awesome. As per usual, Meta One is holding strong. We are at $507.28. And it's really been great to see, especially over the last few months, few weeks here, with so much instability in the overall market, that we're staying strong here. And really, even in these volatile times, we don't really see big moves in Meta One, which is the way that it's been designed. And going back to the currency conversation we had earlier in the show, Fernando, I'm seeing more and more people interested in gold. I'm also seeing more countries doing things with gold. I know Zimbabwe is actually doing something with digital tokens backed by gold. And I know that gold is at its highest peak right now. So that's really a good sign. I think that, as we've talked about many times, we need to go towards currency that is backed by real hard assets and moves us away from this ridiculous kind of clown show of a fiat currency world where this money can just be printed and inflation can continue forever and the can be kicked down the road forever. It's just like this whole debt ceiling thing. I wanted to make a comment on it earlier that they're gonna raise the debt ceiling. It's a play. It's a play. This happens every single time. There's the president fights with the House Majority Leader or whatever it is, and then they sign a bill at the very last hour at 11:59 p.m. right before the deadline.
Yeah.
There's always a bunch of bull crap in the bill. It's always a bad deal for the American people in the world, and then we just continue to kick the can down the road. So this is why, in my opinion, supporting blockchain, supporting currencies that are backed by assets, supporting cryptocurrency because of its power and its decentralization and its anti-corruption tools is so vitally important right now. And like you said off air, Fernando, we're in the midst of a war. We're not fighting this war with guns. We're fighting it with propaganda, with information, and with money. And we have to take a stand because there is a pivotal time right now for humanity, and we're at a crossroads, and we can either go one way or the other. And I don't know about you, but I want to go the way of prosperity and abundance and seeing a world for my children and for everyone's children and for everyone's children's children that is one of happiness and peace and prosperity for all. So
I agree.
Yeah. I think that was it, right? Did you have anything else you wanted to bring a chat about today?
No, just as usual, if you like our podcast, just go ahead and drop a like, subscribe to our channel, and if you wanna, hear us talk about anything, just drop a comment. And I hope to see you again here next week.
Absolutely, everybody. Thank you so much. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Take care.
Bye.